The town had settled into its rhythm once more, the dusty roads now filled with the slow murmur of everyday life. A far cry from the chaos that had consumed it years ago. Ethan walked through the streets with Lyra at his side, their hands brushing occasionally, an unspoken reassurance between them. He watched the children running past, the laughter of their own little ones blending with the town's heartbeat. He had always dreamed of this quiet life, but the reality of it, now that it was here, was something different. Ethan had grown in ways he hadn't expected. His face, once young and unsure, was now lined with the weight of responsibility, of love, of the future he and Lyra had created. His gaze lingered on her face, on the way the sunlight caught the edge of her hair, the way her eyes still seemed to hold mysteries she hadn't shared with him yet. It wasn't that they hadn't talked about ever to pouring important anyone, but there was always this sense, this unspoken thread between them, that some things were too deep for words. He used to wonder if it was possible to be too deep into someone, to be too connected. Could you lose yourself in another person without realizing it? Lyra's voice broke his thoughts, soft and steady as always, but there was something in the way she said his name, something that made his chest tighten. Ethan, do you ever think about what comes next? He glanced at her. They had been walking in silence for a while, but the weight of her question hung between them like a cloud, one they had been circling but hadn't quite dared to touch. I think about it all the time, he said, his voice low, almost reluctant, but I don't know what comes next. After all we've been through, it's hard to imagine what life looked like after the storm. She stopped walking, turning to face him. Her expression was unreadable, and for a moment, Ethan felt as though he was standing in the middle of a precipice, looking down into a vast unknown. There's no storm left, Ethan, she said quietly. Not the kind we thought anyway. I'm not sure what it's supposed to do with that. He felt his heart stutter. Her words, simple as they were, hit him like a wave crashing on the shore, pulling at everything inside him. She didn't say it with fear, but with something much more terrifying, a quiet, uncertain kind of sadness. We don't have to fight anymore, he whispered, his voice thick with the weight of understanding. But that doesn't mean we're empty. We still have each other. Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment, he thought he saw the storm in them, quite ferocious storm that had shaken her just as much as it had shaken him. She was always so steady, so composed, that he sometimes forgot how deeply she had been scarred by their journey. She had kept the world at bay for so long, not out of fear, but out of a fierce determination to protect the things that mattered most. Do you ever wonder if we left something undone? She asked softly, if we've missed some vital part of ourselves or some part of this world that we'll never understand because we were too focused on the battle. Ethan reached out to touch her arm, grounding them both. Her skin was warm beneath his fingers, but there was a coldness in her eyes that he didn't know how to chase away. I think about it all the time, he said. I think about the people we couldn't save, the things we didn't understand, the parts of the storm we never really knew. But maybe we weren't meant to fix everything, Lyra. Maybe we just had to do what we could, and trust that the rest would find its way. She nodded slowly, though her gaze still drifted away over his shoulder as if searching for something in the distance, something that was there. They continued walking, but this time, the silence between them was so comfortable. Ethan felt the space between them, felt the weight of Lyra's thoughts, the parts of her that she kept hidden. But what surprised him most was the feeling that, for the first time since their journey began, he was the one left behind. When they reached the museum, the place that had once held all their triumphs and their sacrifices, Ethan felt the familiar weight of the past. He looked at the last cases, the shards safely locked away, but they didn't hold the same power anymore. The relics were nothing more than memories, beautiful but distant. The real story of real truth was something they carry within themselves. Lyra stepped inside first, her footsteps light but mattered. Ethan followed, and he saw her pause by the display of the shards. She had never been one to linger on the past, but today was different. She was looking at the relics with a kind of reverence, a longing he held in quiet place. The storm isn't over, is it? He murmured, more to herself than to him. Ethan approached her, standing beside her as they both stared at the glass. No, but we're different now. We've learned the hard way that storms come and go, but they don't have to break us. She glanced at him then, her lips curving into a small, bittersweet smile. I hope you're right. For a long moment they stood there, side by side, neither of them speaking, but both feeling the depth of everything feel lived through. The shards were nothing compared to the bond we formed love, the unspoken promises, the shared grief and joy. The storm had brought them together, but it was the quiet after that had shaped them. Even Lyra said, her voice small but full of meaning, what if we were never meant to find the answers? What if the only thing we were meant to do was live enjoying her in this moment? His heart swelled with the truth of her words, the realization that maybe, just maybe, this was the only victory that truly mattered. Not the battle they had fought, not the shards, but the life they had built together. I think we've already found it, he said, his voice filled with quite certainty. She turned to face him fully now, and there, in the soft glow of the museum's light, there was no question left. Only a shared understanding. They were no longer the people who had entered the storm. There was something more noble, forged by fire, something deeper than either of them had imagined. I'm ready for the next chapter, Lyra whispered, and this time, Ethan knew what she meant. It wasn't about the past. It wasn't about the future. It was about them together, in this moment, and maybe that was all they would ever need. And as they walked out of the museum, hand in hand, Ethan knew one thing for sure: the storm might have passed, but their journey had only just begun.